Lawrence Heritage State Park to the 2025 Bring Your Own Lunch program. My name is Rich Padover. I'm the summer interpretive tour guide here at Lawrence Heritage, and thank you for joining us today. And today we'll be looking at the history of Lawrence General Hospital, and we have some items on display behind me. So the apparel is from the Lawrence History Center, part of their collection, as well as the shadow box there that has some old nursing pins in it with the year that they date from. Okay. And then the other items there are from my own collection that I have, a few items on Lawrence General, including an annual report there from 1886. You're welcome to, if you haven't seen these items yet, you're welcome to take a look at them before you leave today, okay? So, if you are interested in any of our other programs here, I hope you are. We have all the flyers downstairs and on the back tables that also list the various programs and events here this summer. We hope to see you again as well for some of those events too. So, and also besides the tours and the other events here going on this summer, which again are all on the flyers, behind me in the gallery, we also have an art exhibit right now until the 29th of this month, I believe. So Britt Bowner, who was a previous supervisor here, I worked with him summer of 22. He has a collection of various kinds of paintings that he has lent us. So he set up an exhibit in the gallery behind me for the month of June. Very interesting exhibit. The theme of the paintings there, it's basically like land, sea, and air. Okay, so it's very interesting. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, do check it out before you leave today. And then coming in for early July, in time for the holiday, we will have a private collection going in there of bicentennial items from 1976, and that'll be up all summer, okay, to coincide with our upcoming 19th annual old-fashioned 4th of July celebration coming up, okay? So anyway, just to let you know what's happening here, okay? All right, so today we'll be looking at the history of Lawrence General Hospital. So on the synopsis there, Lawrence General is one of the oldest institutions in the city of Lawrence. Who doesn't know someone, right, who was born there or perhaps born there yourselves, okay? What started out as a single structure has grown and expanded over the years to now include many buildings on its Lawrence campus, as well as satellite facilities outside of Lawrence as well. Located at the foot of Prospect Hill, near where the Spigot River, the North Canal, and the Merrimack River all converge, Lawrence General, or LGH as it's commonly referred to, is today the city's largest single employer, and 5 years ago was recognized by Forbes magazine as one of America's best in-state employers. So just a little introduction there, okay? Now, so as you know, when I give my presentations, I set it up in a quiz format, and then we will go over the correct answers now, and then that will form the basis of our discussion today, okay? So if you have any questions, just ask as we go along, or you can save them until the end. Either way is fine, okay? All right, number one. As the population of Lawrence grew, excuse me, in the mid to late 1800s, it and the surrounding communities found that they lacked the capabilities to provide basic medical care to their residents. Okay, not good, right? Thus, in a particular year, a group of concerned women who were active in Lawrence's churches, which would have been Protestant churches back then, and who were the wives of the city's prominent businessmen, established a quote-unquote day nursery to care for sick children whose working mothers could not take care of them during the day. So, In what year was this nursery founded? Anybody?
75.
1875, Mary, correct, yes. 1875, okay?
I was there.
Yes, okay. So, all right, so we could trace the birth, if you will, of Lawrence General, okay, to the year 1875. And actually, on one of my items that I have on display here, it's, I think, like a hand cream in that plastic bottle there from Lawrence General. Right on it, it does say 1875, yeah, so, yeah, so. I wouldn't want to try the cream though right now, right? It may do you more harm than good, actually.
Was that cream or disinfectant, or what was it?
Well, you know what? Alan, let's check, let's see. Okay.
When was that manufactured?
Oh, yeah, well, this goes back to the 1970s, I believe, okay? Hospital massage and skin lotion. Yeah.
So it's a lotion.
A lotion.
Relaxing thing, rather than a disinfectant.
Yeah.
Put your hand around.
Yeah, more like a lotion, I guess, yeah.
We use it for background kitchen.
Yeah.
All ladies,
Well, no, it says 1875 on it, alluding to the year that Lawrence General began. Yeah, but no, it wasn't produced in 1875. Well, like 1975.
Never would have been produced. It's in a plastic.
A plastic.
Never would have been produced in 1875 in plastic.
No, that's true, right, yeah, true, yeah.
What year was that, Rich?
So, well, this goes back to the mid-1970s.
Because in 1875, it was for the children. Taking care of
Right,
the children.
so, right,
They weren't taking
right.
care of it.
So 1875 would have been the origins of Lawrence General when it served children, sick children, okay? But then we'll trace its progression as we go through the quiz now, okay? So, all right, very good. Number 2. On the afternoon of October 5th, during the correct year in number 1 above, I couldn't give it away, but now we know, okay, 1875, quote unquote, beautiful fall weather, this is right from the minutes of the meeting that they took, okay, beautiful fall weather prevailed when a small group of women met in a building at 206 Essex Street, okay, which would be the block in between Appleton Street and Lawrence Street, okay, to discuss expanding their charitable works for which, as conscientious Christians, they felt themselves responsible, okay, that they had a duty now, right? They agreed to form an organization to be called...
The Ladies Union.
No, sorry, Earlene.
The Ladies Union.
What's that?
The Ladies Union.
The ladies, so C then you're saying?
The Ladies Union Charitable.
Yes, right, so C then, yeah. C would be the correct answer, okay?
So C is correct.
C is correct, yes, Mary, yeah. The Ladies Union Charitable Society of Lawrence. Try saying that 10 times in a row. Yes. Right, okay. So, yes, so that's what they call themselves, okay, yeah. So, in the booklet here from my collection, okay, it does say right on it, Ladies Union Charitable Society, okay, from 1886. The annual report that they put out. You know, some organizations put out an annual report, right? So again, you're free to look through it before you leave. But yeah, right, they have their name right on it.
The question, no one has mentioned, working among people, how many people were, who started this?
Okay, it would have been like a dozen women or so. Okay, no more than a dozen or so, yeah, okay. It wasn't, they weren't a really large group of women. I mean, enough to get things going.
Were they more of money?
More of money, right, because their husbands were all these well-to-do businessmen in
Yeah.
the city of Lawrence, right? They were active in the Protestant churches here. They helped support all the Protestant churches in the city, okay? But again, they felt as conscientious Christians, they felt that sense of duty, responsibility, okay? Let's care for the sick children. Now they can't be neglected just
There
because their
weren't many of
mothers
them.
are working, you know?
And there weren't many of them. That's why we're small.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, all right. Okay, so by the way, that building at 206 Essex Street, it was known as the City Mission, okay? Basically, the City Mission here in Lawrence, okay, if you're not familiar with it, it was managed by a minister, okay, and governed by delegates from each of the Protestant churches, okay? And basically, it was a charitable institution to help the poor, okay, hence the word mission. So the City Mission, okay? When those ladies met on October 5th, that beautiful fall day, right, 1875 at 206 Essex Street, okay, to form what became Lawrence General Hospital, okay? So they did follow up on that a few months later, and then they incorporated themselves, okay, on January 4th, 1876. Okay, so the organizational meeting to begin Lawrence General was October 5th, 1875, okay, and then January 4th, 1876 is when they incorporated themselves, okay? So.
That's a pretty fast time period. Once you get
Yeah, they, don't stop a woman who's on a mission, right, Carolyn?
Well, right over the holidays too.
Yeah, and during the holiday
Yeah.
season, right?
That's
You
quick.
know, God bless them, right? They knew what they wanted and they went after it, right? And they pursued it, yeah. Okay. In, number 3, in 1899, a prominent local industrialist who founded the International Paper Company, died with a bequest in his will of his home, okay? So he had the bequest of his actual house to the Ladies Union Charitable Society, okay? And then it was renovated as a hospital, okay? And then in 1902, so it took like 3 years, 1899 to 1902, okay? And then in 1902, this person, this local prominent industrialist, okay, and then had the house renovated, gave it to the Ladies Charitable Union, and then 1902 opened on the current site that we see now of Lawrence General, okay? So who was this industrialist?
William Russell.
William Russell, right, William Russell,
It
okay?
certainly wasn't Nathaniel White, he's my age.
No.
Anybody have a picture of that original house?
Yes, in your packet now, okay,
Oh,
by the way.
answers are in the back.
In your packet,
Oh,
hi darling. Okay, so in your packet,
Yeah.
right? That was the day nursery, okay? As far as the Russell estate, it's the driveway leading up to that big house that you have in your packet, okay? So,
They have a picture.
yes, yes, see, it's amazing what money can buy, right, okay? So that would have been one of the grand houses in Lawrence at the time.
If you're in
Okay.
cardiac care, you look right down there.
Yeah, there you go, right, okay?
Part of the building is still called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
part of, yes, that's right, in honor of Mr. Russell there, yes, okay.
well, I
Good
need
parking.
I had to go to the building.
They have
My
a,
test, so I
Oh,
did.
okay, there you go, Arlene, yeah, okay.
no, they have a picture downstairs.
What was that, Alan?
They have a picture.
Oh, his picture is in the lobby,
Yeah,
yeah.
blood is right.
Yeah, yeah.
That area.
Near where they draw the blood from you?
No.
That area,
They have a picture, right?
Is
okay,
that still part of the hospital?
yeah,
Yes, yes,
That house?
That's the original.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
original, right, okay,
all office building.
yeah. All right, so I think you can see it from Prospect Street there.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so that was the Russell estate, okay, the mansion, all right? And so again, in his will, He gave it to the Ladies Charitable Union, okay? And in his will, he actually did include money for the renovation of his mansion into a hospital, okay? So he didn't just like hand it over to the ladies and say, here, renovate it now, good luck, right? But he actually, what we would call an unfunded mandate today, right? Okay. Right? Oh, here's something, we're gonna make you do this, we'll give you something, but now you have to fund it, okay? So in his will, he did provide the money to renovate his mansion into a hospital, okay? So 3 years time, right? And then 1902, it opens, his mansion now opens as a hospital on the same site there, okay, where the current hospital is now located, okay?
Did
So,
they ever say how much money he gave?
no, I wasn't able to find exactly in my research how much money that was, so that's just speculation, I guess, now, but as far as the amount,
But there again, the years from the date of being started to finish is quick.
It was quick, 3 years, within 3 years, right, okay?
Is that still there today in the back?
That back building, I believe, is still there.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. In the back.
If you're a resident
Right,
of
wait.
the back wall.
Yeah.
Near the Leonard School. You can go.
Yeah, if you're looking towards the Leonard School by the Spigot River, it's in the back
Yeah,
part of the
yeah.
property there, right.
It always caught my eye, the design. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
So in the 123 years now since Lawrence General opened, okay, in 1902, as you probably all know, it has renovated and expanded its campus, right? Especially during the years 1940 to 1972. That's when Lawrence General really expanded, okay? 1940 to 1972. Now after as well, okay? But 40 to 72 were the big years there when they really went headstrong expanding, okay? All right, so that brings us to number 4. Prior to locating at its current site, the precursor of Lawrence General, as described in question number 1, okay, and again, I couldn't give anything away here, was first located where? Okay, so where was that day nursery for sick children located?
That's
See?
the Blueberry.
Not C, no, not A, D. D.
I didn't even know where those two dialects are.
Yeah, D.
After
Yeah,
Common,
somebody had said D,
Common and Jet.
Methuen, what?
right? Just a couple of blocks from here, right?
Is Methuen right here?
Yeah, this is Methuen Street, right?
Appleton.
And then there's Appleton, and then the next, there's
Common.
Appleton, right? And then Pemberton is the next one over, yeah. So actually, one block up here from,
Or one block over?
1 block over, if you're at the intersection here, Methuen and Jackson Streets, heading in front of me in that direction, okay? That's on that, I'm not sure, all right, so it's an intersection, right? You have the Museum Square parking garage on one corner, the Fenton Courthouse on another corner, you have a nightclub on another corner, and then on the fourth corner is a parking lot, right? I think, I couldn't find from my research, but I think on that intersection there, the 4 corners, I think the day nursery was where that parking lot is now, okay?
Next to the mill,
Yeah, right near the mills there, right, okay, yeah,
makes sense.
makes sense, yeah.
This was housing, right?
Yes,
Was there more housing going this way?
yes, okay, right, so,
So they
as
drop the children and then go back to the middle?
and then you're right at work there, right, okay. So as I tell visitors on my walking tours, right, on this side, on the northern side of Canal Street where we are, which used to be Methuen, right? By now we'd be sitting in Methuen here before this land was given to the Essex Company to create the city, right? So all along the northern side of Canal Street here were the boarding houses, just like this one. From Union Street behind me, all the way in front of me up to Broadway, okay? Completely lined with the boarding houses, okay?
All the way to Broadway?
All the way to Broadway, Alan, yeah, okay.
You're talking lots.
That's a lot of boarding houses, right, okay? But think of all the thousands of employees that are in the mills there, right, okay? So now most of them came down in the mid-20th century to urban renewal, okay? When they were considered outdated, blighted, you know, they were falling apart, they were about 100 years old by this point, okay? You know, right? So, but thankfully this one was saved, okay? And then some of you know from my walking tours, or you know on your own, when you get to Canal and Amesbury Streets, there's a building that from the outside looks just like this one, right by Pemberton Park, right? Okay, that was the only other boarding house that was saved from the wrecking ball, right? And Sandy, of course you know, your grandmother or great-grandmother?
Great-grandmother.
Great-grandmother, my mother-in-law here, her great-grandmother, okay, Susan Bruce Morrison, for a period of time was running that boarding house at Canal and Amesbury Streets.
It still stands, her boarding
Yeah.
house is the only one that's there.
Yeah.
When you go over the Central Bridge, it's right where the lights are. You would take a left and it's right there, I think there's a bar room or something down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But their house is, their boarding house is the one in between.
Yeah.
She supported her whole family on that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Any pictures of that place where it would have been in the parking lot? For a sauce?
Yes, okay, so in your packet, thank you, Carrie, in your packet, I didn't photograph too well, but see that old-looking building with the awnings there, okay? That is the original Lawrence General Hospital, okay? Before William Russell gave his mansion to become the new hospital, okay? So this is what was at the intersection of Methuen and Appleton Streets,
This is,
The one that happened.
okay? Which I think was on the corner lot where that parking lot is
St.
now,
Alfio.
okay?
So it served as a daycare, then a hospital, or jointly at the same time?
Basically, all rolled into one, okay? Daycare, I guess you could call it, because the mothers were working, but also like a nursery, health center, because these children were sick, the ones who were taken there. They had working mothers, you know, working all day, couldn't take care of the sick children, so that's where this facility came in, the Ladies Charitable Union Society, so.
Did they deliver children there too?
I did not see that in my research. I don't think it was a hospital in that sense where babies were delivered. And back then it would have been mostly at home. You would have been delivered at home, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
When you do the boat trips and
Yeah.
you explain
Yeah.
all the houses, the houses they had built along this, from here, from Union Street to Broadway.
Yeah.
Did any of the people who built the dam stay in the house, or was it mostly the mills? That was the mill thing.
Okay, it was mostly for mill personnel, okay? The people who built the dam, which were mostly the Irish immigrants, right? They could not afford regular housing in Lawrence, so that's why they built the shanties, okay? Immediately south of the dam, okay, like where Shattuck Street is, Kingston Street, opposite from St. Patrick's Church.
Oh, yeah.
That was the big Irish shanty, as well as what we call the Plains neighborhood now. That was the second big Irish shanty, just a few blocks up from here, where St. Anthony's Maronite Church is now, Green's Funeral Home, the old Lawrence High School, the Plains, right, we call that the Plains. But the Irish had that. Then it became a Middle Eastern neighborhood, right, the Lebanese, the Syrians, a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, so number 4, oh yeah, so let me just give you a little more information about number 4, question 4, okay? So again, that organizational meeting, the Ladies Charitable Union, October 5th, 1875, okay? Again, they moved fast. So the day nursery, I don't have the exact date, but the day nursery opened early November of 1875. All right, so they moved fast, like a month after that initial meeting, they got that nursery going, okay? One patient it started with one sick child, okay, but it could accommodate up to 25 children. Okay, so it started with one patient, early November 1875, but it could accommodate up to 25 sick children. Okay, and it was a rented building. So again, the one that kind of black, I didn't photograph too well. Okay, so that was a rented building, but the owner raised the rent like immediately. Okay, once the Ladies Charitable Union rented it and began caring for sick children, the owner, oh my God, right, raised the rent. It's like, oh, welcome to my building.
Yeah.
Right, okay, I'm gonna raise your rent now, okay? So, this didn't sit well with the ladies, okay? So, so they I don't know exactly what they told them, but anyway, they may not have been, too nice, I don't know, but basically, well, all right, we're moving out of here then, okay? So, with the help of none other than Charles Storrow, right, one of the founding fathers of Lawrence, okay, the engineer who laid out the city here. So, the ladies enlisted the help of Charles Storrow, okay, and he, with his help, the Washington Mills, okay, owned a building right up here at Methuen and Jackson Streets, okay, right by the common up here,
Yeah.
okay. Now again, I don't know exactly which corner it sat on, okay, but the Washington Mills to my left, that are now apartments, owned a building at Jackson and Methuen Streets, okay, like where Brunswick House is now, the Overly Housing, okay, and I think it might have actually been that corner lot, okay, and so Charles Storrow got the Washington Mills to rent out a building at Jackson and Methuen Streets to the Ladies Charitable Union, okay, with lower rent than they were paying in this building, right down, just a block away from where they ended up moving, right, okay? So, it was just a nominal fee, they're happy now, they're happy with the rent, and they're glad that they're out of the original building, okay? So, all right, number 5. In the 123 years since LGH first opened, it's renovated and added, as I told you, a lot going on between 1940 and 1972. So which one of the following groups of buildings were added to the campus between 1940 and 1972?
B,
B, right. And why would it be B?
Russell.
Because it's the only answer that mentions Russell, right? Very good, yes, okay. So B, 5B, okay.
Gotta get Hamlet in there.
Yeah, Hamlet, another, prominent name in Lawrence, right? Okay, yeah, so. Okay, number 6. Who was the very first physician, as well as medical and surgical supervisor in Lawrence General? Any guesses?
Abbott.
Abbott.
No, it wasn't Abbott.
Sergeant.
Not
Wasn't Abbott.
Sergeant. No. Okay, we got it down to a 50-50
It
shot.
can't be Chamberlain, that's.
It's not Chamberlain. No,
That's not-
no, it was a woman. Unusual for back then, right? Dr. Susan Wood Crocker.
See,
Oh, no kidding.
Wood,
Yes.
Wood, should have known.
And Wood, right? Okay, then another important name. Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Richard, what year would Dr.
Okay.
would be?
So, all right, here we go. Let me give you a little history about Dr. Crocker there now. Okay, so, now, she was not from Lawrence. She was born in Halifax, not Halifax, Nova Scotia, but Halifax, Massachusetts, which is 12 miles from the town of Plymouth. Okay, so she was from southeastern Mass, okay? She was a descendant of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower. Yes, okay. So she was not connected to William Wood of the American Bullet Company here in Lawrence, right? Because I think we know he was Portuguese, right?
Right.
Yes, right? Some of you know from my tours, right? His actual surname was Silva, S-I-L-V-A, right? Which is a classic Portuguese surname, okay? He changed it to Wood. He wanted a nondescript name because he was concerned he was going to be discriminated against in Lawrence here, okay, because of an ethnic sounding surname, Silva, Portuguese, right? Okay, so he changed it to Wood. So she was not related to William Wood, okay, but still, you know, there's that connection there that, you know, maybe helped her, that name, that word, Wood, you know. So she was a descendant of the Pilgrims who came here on the Mayflower. She married a Lawrence man, Charles Crocker, in 1854, okay? And they settled here in Lawrence, okay? Now, she went to medical school, well, as you might imagine, okay? She graduated from the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary, okay? So it was called the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary, class of 1874, okay? So, now, you know, I have to tell you, back then, of course, medical school was not like today. What she, you know what she did actually? She attended 3 medical lectures. Okay. Yeah, okay, and that's what qualified her. So I know, kind of scary, isn't it? Right, okay.
She had a degree or whatever.
She got her degree.
Lately after her marriage, was it 1853?
After she was married, yeah, she got her medical
20
degree.
years later.
Right, like 20 years after she got married, okay? So,
How old was she? She was like 40.
okay, so she was born in 1836.
Okay.
So she was 38 when she got her medical degree. Yeah, I think she wanted to raise her family. They had 3 children. She wanted to raise her family first and then went to medical school. But from my research, okay, she attended 3, I think it said rather lengthy, I would hope so, medical lectures, okay? And, and that's how she got her qualifications there, okay? No, but I will, I'll work my way to like the end of her life now. Okay, so hang on, Paul. Okay, so, so she graduates in 1874, right? LGH now has its beginnings in 1875. She is considered one of the founders of Lawrence General, or its precursor anyway, right, on Methuen Street, yeah, okay? So she was caring for some of those sick children here on Methuen Street at the nursery, the precursor to Lawrence General, right, okay? So, and she became its first physician, okay? So now, in 1888, she moved to Boston, okay, to become a professor at the college, it's defunct now, but she became a professor at the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, however, she was still attending to patients here on Methuen Street, though. Okay. So, you know, very energetic woman there, it sounds like, right? Okay. So, still caring for patients at what was to become Lawrence General and teaching at a medical school at the same time in Boston, okay? Now, to get kind of to like what Paul was asking me, so she died in 1922 at 86, okay, in Los Angeles, okay? Now, in my research, I could not find what brought her to LA, okay? Maybe new opportunities, you know, she wanted to give the West Coast a try, you know, I don't know. So, Paul, there was no information there as to where she's buried, if they brought her back to Lawrence here, or she's in Boston, or they buried her in LA where she died. But I guess if you do on the computer, if you do that find a grave, you might be able to write, it'll say there where the person is buried.
She died, and when did she die?
1922, yeah.
What was her husband's first name?
What's that?
What's her husband's first name?
Charles.
Charles Crocker?
Charles, yeah. He died young. He died in 1881.
Do you know where they live?
Okay, hang on, Mary. Yeah, Pat.
Over in North Andover, over by Brooks School.
Yeah.
When you go into Brooks School, on the left there.
Okay.
Up on the hill.
Yeah.
There's a big white house. And it was called Crocker
From the sanatorium.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
probably
Yeah,
it's her then?
it's gotta be something.
You figure there has to be a connection then,
I
yeah,
never heard that
Yeah.
before.
yeah, okay.
57 years later, I'm still
Well,
there.
And it's still, yeah. Well,
Cunard had something to do with building that or something.
there's a steamship, Cunard Lines.
So,
Oh, Cunard, George, the Cunard mill. Oh, okay, all right, I see what you mean, yeah, okay.
Because he built Campion Hall.
Oh, yeah, like by Lake Chickawack.
Yeah, you get away from the mills.
Yeah,
Fresh air.
Breathe some fresh air for a change, right, I know, yeah.
That was right.
I just thought I'd throw that.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you.
confuse the whole
Oh, yeah, no, see, that's why I do these quizzes, because it does encourage discussion, you know, so, good. Yeah, and Mary, I'm sorry, what were you going to ask me?
at the bottom.
Ah.
So you go by Butcher Boy and up that hill?
Yeah, down by the river.
Yeah.
Down by the.
But everything. What you doing in North Angle?
Yeah, Cunard's great.
It was August something, either July or August, if you look it up, when she died in 1922, it was either July or August, okay?
But think of what she was taking care of now. You know, and granted, she was a woman.
Oh, yeah,
But she only had the little ones, frankly, you're right, and some women.
Yeah.
She didn't have, you know,
yeah.
she didn't have much surgery. She wasn't doing heart replacement.
How did she met the husband again? What was?
Yeah, because they were from different parts of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't come across that in my research, so I don't know how they met. Because, yeah, she was a Halifax girl down near Plymouth, he was a Lawrence guy.
So it was hard to like, how do people really travel? back
Yeah,
then?
back then.
The only thing, whatever happened to her children, did they?
Yeah, they're all, I looked up the family history, 3 children, of course, they all died after, they're all gone by now, you know. And then I think there were like some grandchildren and great-grandchildren, you know. I don't think local, not from what I can determine, no, out of town or out of state, yeah. All right, so, yeah, so.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
So that's the first time we have a doctor,
Yes,
quote unquote.
quote unquote, yeah.
Were there midwives existing in Lawrence to assist with the births of children? in
Yes.
homes?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, basically back then, you know, on TV shows, right?
Did that come from England?
The thing about giving birth at home?
Yeah, no, the midwives.
Probably. It sounds like probably something that would have originated in England. Anybody know for sure? I don't know.
I mean, midwifery, like, women whose job it is or whose role in the community it is to assist with childbirth is something that's like pretty cross-cultural going back as long as people have had specific roles in their communities. So, I know like when midwifery started to go out of fashion, a big part of that was that it was happening around the same time in the US as both the professionalization of medicine and everything else, and the big wave of immigration that we talked about in our museum tours in the late 19th and early 20th century, and it was associated with new sort of non-Anglo immigrants, Catholic immigrants, Jewish immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. The term midwife, I assume, comes from England because it's in English, but it was a pretty universal practice to some extent before the sort of like development of professional sterile living environments and a whole complicated history of that like medical establishment sort of borrowing from midwife traditions, but then denouncing midwifery as dangerous and trying to undermine these women who've had professional careers as unprofessional.
But I love it, you know, on these old TV shows like Westerns, and if a woman is giving birth, somebody will say, oh, somebody boil some water, right? And you know, oh, I need a clean towel, right, okay. But you know, you think of boiling water, I don't know, is that really necessary?
It is unless you want to use dirty instruments.
Okay, for the instruments, is that what it was intended for? Okay.
I can imagine the rudimentary the instruments were.
And you can imagine, right, the instruments themselves, oh my God, I know, yeah, but, so, But okay, number 7, Lawrence General, much like the former St. John's Hospital in Lowell and other hospitals, ran a school of nursing for a long time. Now, during what time period did LGH run their school of nursing? Anybody?
D.
C.
D?
D.
No, C.
See,
Oh, they stopped soon.
C, yeah.
See, Richard?
C, yeah, C, yeah. 1882 to 1977.
Lawrence General Hospital had an agreement with Merrimack College, and they were gonna extend it so you could get your degree at Merrimack College, but it fell through for some reason, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I don't know.
That might have been
I
when
don't know.
Northern Essex Community College started their nursing program.
Yeah, Northern Essex now for a long time, and my mother-in-law has her nursing degree from Northern Essex, right? So it's one of our biggest, and I teach there during the school year. It's one of our biggest programs there, and has been for a while. Yeah. So.
Just to say, I went to Northern Essex as an adult, I was married with kids, and I had to take a science course, and it was down on the wing where all the nursing stuff was. Oh my God, they were all sitting on the floor, they were all gonna have an exam, sitting on the floor. I never saw such a,
I
you
know.
know, it was, you could tell the tension and the hard work that they were putting in.
It was all wonderful. In
Yeah.
those days, they interviewed husbands to see if they would allow their wives to go to nursing school. It was a joke, it really was a joke. Or boyfriend, because maybe they couldn't spend time with the nursing things and they were not gonna allow somebody to come and waste their time. And if the husband said no, that was it. When I went to school, they didn't do that, but right just before that, they were up doing that up to them.
But one other cute story to tell you guys, I was a business transfer major because I was gonna go on and get a 4-year degree. And there were 2 guys in my course that they went down to take a science. And what did they sign up for? Anatomy. A&P.
Yeah.
They came off the elevator to go to the class where and they went, they came off saying, oh my God, I don't know about this course. And I said, what course did you take it? And they told me, and I said, and after me walking down the horror corridor and seeing, because I was going to buy a bucket, and I'm like, oh my God, look at them. I said, what are you crazy? Those are nursing students.
We only had 3 men in our nursing class of 36 women.
The men were allowed
So
in.
Richard, what happened after
Okay.
this stuff?
So, okay, yeah, just,
I'm gonna put a bottle of water on it, so it's getting quick.
okay, well, thanks, Carmen, yeah, okay, I'm just, AC off, I'm just getting a little air again. Yeah, okay, all right, we're almost done here, and I'll turn the AC back on, it's to keep it quieter in here, for the tape. Okay, so 1882, okay, is when that nursing, the hospital's nursing school began, almost 100 years, right, and then it closed in 1977. 1,500 alumni, okay, during those years. So altogether, they have had 1,500 alumni, okay? And there was an alumni association of the nursing graduates from the hospital there that was around until recently, 2017, okay? And then, as they told me at the History Center, well, by the time we got to 2017, a lot of the graduates there, the alumni, right, they were, gone by then or way up there in years, and they just couldn't keep the alumni
They
association
just met,
going.
the alumni just met a couple of years ago, it was in the Eagle Tribune. And
Really?
there was
Yeah.
pictures of the nurses, I didn't graduate from Lawrence
No.
General, but there were pictures of the nurses who graduated
Oh,
from
wow.
Lawrence General.
Okay.
They're not dead, they're very much
Okay,
alive.
okay.
They're very much alive.
Okay, all right, so some of them are still alive, that's, I guess the more recent ones.
Most of them are still alive, I think.
Okay.
At least it was the last year of the
Yeah.
nursing school that they had, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so, okay, all right, well, it's good to know they're still kicking them, some of them there, okay. Because the History Center made it sound like, oh, yeah, no, they disbanded 8 years ago, a lot of them are gone now, they're in nursing homes, and I'm sure some of them are.
Wait till they go to the hospital and one of those nurses takes care of them and say, when did you graduate? And they have heart failure.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because they're still working at the hospital.
Yeah, okay. So we do have some examples, some of the apparel there. Behind you there, the apparel, those were donated donated by some of the alumni there from the hospital's School of Nursing. So. Okay, number 8, besides Lawrence General, there have been other hospitals, as you may know, located in Lawrence, okay? 3 came to my mind immediately, and their street locations are down below. Can you name the hospital that was located on each of the following streets? Okay, so what was the hospital on Chickering Street? Anybody?
McGovern?
No, not the McGovern, no. That was Gaunt Square in Methuen, I think.
Yeah.
McGovern Nursing Home. Oh, McGowan. McGowan.
But it was a hospital before it became a nursing home.
Okay.
It was a full-fledged, accredited
Okay,
hospital, so.
Okay, so that was Methuen.
I have no idea.
I was down there.
What's that, Alan?
McGowan.
You were born at the McGowan. Okay, yeah.
And you're still alive, that's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, I know, how long ago was that close, right?
Quite a while ago.
Okay, yeah. Okay, everybody's wondering, where's Chickering Street?
Yeah.
Well, what about what my Laurentians here? You should all know where Chickering Street is, my fellow Laurentians, right? I mean, okay, all right, Chickering Street. All right, you all remember the original Showcase Cinema?
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
where there's what, Vulture's Animal Hospital there and Starbucks now? Okay,
Yeah.
right on the hill, right behind the original Showcase Cinema.
Yeah.
Okay, like behind it, right, right off Winthrop Avenue there,
Right
okay?
next to the Yankee Doodle restaurant?
Yeah, there used to be the Yankee Doodle restaurant there, okay, the Marquis family there, right, the Yankee Doodle restaurant, right? That's where Chickering Street is, okay? So it's the edge of Colonial Heights, where Colonial Heights like meets Winthrop Avenue.
They haven't things. Especially with South Lawrence.
Southie, right, those of us who grew up in North Lawrence, I know, it's like, what? South Lawrence, what's in South Lawrence, right,
So what was the hospital?
Okay, so it was a tuberculosis hospital, okay? Yeah, I know, that's just pleasant, right? And it was called the tuberculosis hospital, okay? Do I have?
What year was it there?
Okay, I don't have a picture of it, okay? If you look on the internet, you'll.
It's on the internet, so, not to interrupt, but the
No, go ahead.
tuberculosis hospital was actually, so it was up on a hill, but it was more across from the plaza.
Okay, the Stadium Plaza,
Right,
Yeah.
just before that, so it was
Yeah.
up there where the Den Rock Park is.
okay.
That's where the tuberculosis
Okay.
was.
Okay, so a little more set in than where I was thinking, I guess.
Right.
Is it
Yeah.
the ones that now is apartments?
Yeah.
Right up on the hill?
Yeah, it's more in that, like where the park is, the Den Rock Park,
Okay,
but right across from Black Basket.
okay, yeah,
Right on the hill, so
Okay.
there's actual pictures on the internet that,
yeah,
that show.
You don't see any?
no,
No,
It's
it's
torn down.
it's the park and whatever it is.
okay, yeah, okay.
So it's more than that, maybe than that.
That'd be up high.
TB, right, what we know is TB.
TV is
Also called consumption.
Consumption, right, I think that was another name for it, yeah.
They haven't things.
Yeah, okay, so yes, so Chickering Street, but again, it kind of like bordered Den Rock Park then, it was quite expansive.
Yeah.
Is that street still there?
Chickering is still there, yes, yes. So if you're at the Winthrop Avenue Plaza, heading south, okay, so like the stadium will be on your left.
Yep.
The Winthrop Ave Plaza on your right, okay? And you get to that set of lights, right after those fast food places there, okay? And again, the stadium, the high school is on the left. On the right there, and when you're at those lights, okay, on your right, that's Chickering Street.
They're all right.
Is that going in by, what the hell is that fast food thing? Is it the Dunkin' Donuts? No?
No, there's a Starbucks nearby there.
But it's all bright.
Why am you go closer to North Andover?
What's that?
Closer to North Andover or 495?
It's not far from North Andover, it's right near 495. Yeah. You know where the Veterans Memorial Stadium is?
Yeah.
Right, okay, all right,
It
directly,
has to be that last street that you go up.
yeah, right, before you get to the 495 overpass.
Is that where they had the explosion? explosion with the gas?
Yeah, there was the gas, one of the gas explosions was nearby there.
Everybody.
Right, right,
Something
yeah,
else.
right. Okay, so, yeah, no, like I said, I like these discussions, you know.
I mean, that whole area was probably changed, I mean, from,
Yes.
I mean, they ran the highway through it and stuff.
Yeah,
but-
when
So
495 was
So
created.
probably was that street like further down?
Yeah, there was some reconfiguration there when they put in 93 and 495. People's houses were taken in that domain that time. Yeah, like in Andover and Lawrence, yeah. So that tuberculosis hospital, 1909, it didn't last that long, 1909 until the 1920s. Okay, but again, if you Google it, there's pictures on the internet, it's on some postcards on the internet, okay? It was southern facing, okay, and it had lots of windows. But that was on purpose, right? Because they thought that would have been good to help cure the TB back then. So facing the south, southern facing, with lots of windows, okay? It looked like a solarium, all right? And again, I tried to describe the location there, know where it was, okay? So, and then on Marsden Street, okay. The Bessie M. Burke Memorial Hospital, yes, right, okay.
God forbid you had to go.
Bessie
to-
Burke.
Bessie Burke, yes.
Bessie Burke, yeah.
Yes.
What about, you forgot Berkeley?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Berkeley.
Yeah.
Okay, let's back up.
Over
to-
hill.
Yes,
Over
where
hill.
Mary was living for a long time there
I
on
lived in
Berkeley
Berkeley
Street.
for 65 years and you forget.
Oh, my God. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Oh, God, and she founded the Friends group here too. They're gonna hate me now, right?
Cloverdale
Okay,
was a nice little hospital, okay,
Yes.
up the hill. And
yes.
it was especially good if you had, you know, a kid having a tonsillectomy or something, and you didn't want to go all the way to Bonsecourt, which Bonsecourt.
It was a beautiful building.
Which was like walking distance from there anyway.
Is that the one on Berkeley Street, Richie?
Yeah, so Clover
Clover Hill
Hill.
is Berkeley Street?
Berkeley Street, right, okay. Now, it was open from, just to fill you in here a little, so the Clover Hill Hospital, which is apartments now, by the way.
Right.
Right, I think I mentioned last week or recently to some other group I was talking to that when my wife and I were getting married, we were engaged, and we looked at the old Clover Hill Hospital. They were apartments by then, and for a two-bedroom, we ended up on Park Street in Methuen after, but at Clover Hill that time, right, for a two-bedroom apartment, $500 a month. Now,
What
this
year
was
did you get married?
Okay, 1990.
Right.
Yeah, so $500 a month for a two-bedroom apartment back then. Yeah, so.
It's a very interesting section of town anyway, because
Yeah.
right next to it, you know, was on either side, was a
Yep.
very historical hospital.
Yes, that is a nice area.
What year was that?
Historic. Okay, so it was in operation, pardon the pun, from 1923 to 1973, 50 years, okay? 23 to 73, it closed in 73, okay? Now, as you probably, or you may know, it was a small hospital. It only had 53 beds, okay?
Privately owned.
What's that?
It was really
Privately owned, right, privately owned, 53 beds, okay? So by the time we got to 1973, Clover Hill determined or decided that they could no longer compete with the two much larger nearby hospitals, right? And you could walk to the old Bon Secours from Clover Hill there. Lawrence General, a longer distance, but still not that far away. Okay, so Bon Secours at that time, Lawrence General just kind of overwhelmed Clover Hill Hospital, okay? So they closed in 73. Now, some of you might know this name. One of the founders of Clover Hill, there were three founders. One of them was a well-known doctor for a long time in the Lawrence area, Dr. Nicandro de Caesar.
You see that, yeah.
Right? Some of you might remember the name. Okay, but he was very well known, very prominent here amongst the doctors in the Lawrence area. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did they change it into a nursing home immediately after closing of the hospital?
I don't think so. No, I think it went directly from a hospital and then renovated into apartments.
It was privately owned, so he sold it off. So they sold it off, I should say.
Yeah, they sold it up, yeah. So, yeah. But again, if you Google it on your computer, you'll see pictures of it online. You can tell it was like a grand building, you know, for its time, okay?
Well, his mother was sick one time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even know if we were married yet. And she was there at Florida. And I went in to see her.
Oh,
Good grand building.
yeah, yeah, so, okay. And then Marsden Street, we determined that was the Bessie Burke, okay? Now, poor Bessie, I know. Now, the current site, the Commonwealth Motors, okay,
Yeah.
right, okay, yeah, right. And
Oh, I don't remember seeing it.
I couldn't find the year that it was built, but it looks like it came down in the I believe it was torn down in, 1976. I believe it was the mid-1970s when it came down.
Really?
I think. The research was inconclusive.
I thought it was before that.
It was near that time.
Yeah, I think the mid-70s, yeah.
Geez.
Yeah, I think Mayor Buckley was in office at the time, so I think it was the
But
mid-70s.
they all went then, they all went.
Gotta go to the street directory books.
Yeah, the street directory would answer this, yeah.
So they had Berkeley and Lawrence Hill on the same street here?
No, Berkeley was Baltimore.
Yeah, Berkeley was near the Montefiore Hospital,
Real Boston?
but within walking distance of each other, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was the Marston Street, when did they open approximately?
Um,
Like the 20s?
I couldn't find any indication there when the Burke opened.
I was here forever.
I don't think it goes back to the 1800s. I think it was built like sometime after 1900, I think, okay?
It's gonna be again, they were all privately owned.
Privately owned, right?
So there had to be a group of whatever that came in and bought this land. Got the
Yeah.
the Bessie Burke was there forever.
I'm surprised you didn't put Prospect Street, because McGowan was there.
That's the one.
Yeah, see, that was Methuen though.
Oh, you said the.
Yeah, I'm just sticking with Lawrence
Oh, I
here.
see.
Yeah.
That's
But-
a very place.
But what is it, where Swan Street,
Yeah.
Prospect Street, Milk Street, all come together, right? That was the McGowan there, yeah, which is now an assisted living facility, I believe. Yeah, so, yeah.
One quick question.
Yeah.
How did they get these names, like Clover Hill, was that somebody's last
Oh,
name?
okay. Well, see, this is the talk that I gave last Wednesday, I think, but there used to be large clover pastures where Clover Hill Hospital was located, so that's how it got its name.
And what about the Betsy, was that actually a person?
That was a person, a real woman, who, I don't know, I really don't know anything about her, but I imagine she was probably instrumental in getting it going, so they named it after her, I'm guessing, you know. And then Lawrence General, well, you know, because of the location here. Bon Secours, I think, doesn't it translate into like a good trip or something like that? Good
The order
health.
is none.
Yeah, right,
The order
okay.
of none that came in.
So, sure, you can see
The
that.
sister used to have to come down to the ER at Holy Family and unlock the door when the fireman came in the ambulance because everything was locked and the sister was the only one that had the key to unlock the door. That was a long time ago.
Well, that sounds like this would have been a long time ago.
A long time ago.
A whole different era, yeah. So one last thing about the Bessie Burke, FYI. So at various times, okay, it was a poorhouse, okay? It was also an insane asylum, and it was also a school for handicapped children, okay, throughout its history, okay? And there's some stories among some Laurentians that it was haunted, right? Mary, you've heard some of these stories, right?
Well, I wouldn't tell it.
Yeah.
God forbid when Bessie Burke.
Yeah.
You may not come out.
Yeah, so, you know, nothing based on fact, of course, that I'm aware of, but, you know, it makes for good
It's a good thing to
stories.
scare the kids.
Yeah, because of the kids there, right, and it was creepy, it was scary, and, you know, there were some reports of, you know, children being mistreated there, you know, so.
You never went near it, so you never knew.
Okay, and then just the last two here. So from 1882 to 1949, the day nursery and then LGH recorded a particular piece of information on each patient that perhaps maybe, some people might think, went beyond what one might expect that you would normally be asked when you're admitted as a patient, okay? What was this particular piece of information?
I say B.
B? No.
D.
D. D. Somebody said D, yeah.
National.
D. D. You were asking nationality. Yeah. Yeah.
Heaven thing.
Okay. Now, I believe, according to Lori, actually, okay, my wife, when she had her hip replacement, some of you know, she had right side hip replacement surgery in April. My wife Lori, some of you know her, right? Okay. So she's telling me, she said, yeah, no, they were asking me some of these things when she had a check-in April.
She
for her
also was
surgery.
anesthetized at the time, so she definitely was She didn't know. We answered for her.
Yeah, we did the best we could, Sandy, right? Yeah, okay. So perhaps, perhaps some of these might still be asked today. I don't know. But up until 1949, anyway, not too long ago, right, they were asking your nationality, so, but, okay. And number 10, which of the following statements is true about the 1880s? Here in Lawrence with the nursery and the hospital. Anybody? D, yeah, D, all of the above, yeah, okay. So all of those things were true in the 1880s about the day nursery and then when it was morphing into Lawrence General Hospital, okay? So.
Richard, I just have a question. Whose dress is this blue one here? On the right, because
Okay.
nobody I knew wore a dress that looked like that.
Okay, well, as I mentioned, the apparel here from the History Center, okay, was donated by members of the alumni, the Nursing School Alumni Association, all right, many of whom are long gone now, but no, some are still around, I'm only kidding. But, so these were worn by nurses who later became alumni and then donated them to the History Center.
This might have been 60s on the right, but those two were probably
Yeah.
more in the 40s, 30s and 40s, easy. And the capes, I don't remember when anybody wore capes.
Yeah.
Maybe for nursing school they did, but.
Yeah, or maybe like the supervisor would have worn the cape, I don't know.
Didn't they wear the cape
That's
with the parade?
It makes it look regal.
I just want to tell a quick story
Go ahead, yeah.
about Lawrence General. I worked at Lawrence General for a long time, and everybody, I'm sure, remembers the big fire that we had at the mill on Broadway in 1993, or was it Richard?
95, December
95.
95, yeah.
I was in charge that night, and my boss was a wonderful lady, and she said, everything's fine, we're gonna do whatever. So we went about our business, and after supper, they called in order number 1, which meant every floor had to send somebody to the ER, just in case. We understood it was practice, but it wasn't practice, it was the real thing. And I was mad because the people were still in the ER, our people, and I called down there and I said, send them up because we need these people to help these patients. So one of the young guys there, Mr. Hanna, said to me, go look out the window, and looked out the window, look, the whole city was burning.
Right down.
So we have a protocol, and I don't know if they still use the same protocol. Now they use phones, but we use the telephone system. And our job was to call every single nurse on the floor and tell them they needed to come in immediately, no matter where you were, or what you were doing, or anything. Everybody showed up that night, every single person. But the interesting thing is Channel 7 or Channel 5 or something had it on TV, and I called my head nurse and I said, I couldn't get her. Called the operator, I said, you know what's going on? She said, it's bad, I'm gonna see it, I can't. So the head nurse called me, she goes, don't worry, dear, it's just a drill, it's nothing. I said, have you been watching TV? And all of a sudden she said, oh my God, I'll be right there. And every single nurse in the entire hospital came that night. When you have something like that, every door in the hospital is locked. The only door that's left open is the front door, and that's the only door that people can come in and out of. And we had the board meeting that night, and of course we were landing helicopters 2 at a time, and they were sandblasting all the cars, the brand new cars of the board members that were parked in the parking lot, and they actually filed claims for damage to their cars from the stones and everything that hit them. But it was at the end of the night, Joe McManus was the the president, and he said he was glad everybody came in and thanked us for coming in, but nurses didn't come in uniform. They came in jeans and shorts and whatever. And it was cold. I think it was December. It was a very cold night, so it lasted all night. So it was a scary time for us, but it goes to show that, you know, we may do a lot of grumbling, but people do pull together when things happen. So heck hot, it's a good place. Still.
But didn't you wear those capes during the parade? During when
No.
Yeah.
The girls, the students might have won the capes, but I wasn't a student there. I worked there for a long time, and we didn't wear those capes. The students did. They also wore hats, and the hat that you have in the middle is not a hat that they wore. The year that I started nursing in Lawrence General was a student. The last year I was a student, we stopped wearing the caps. I still got I've got my cap. I'm gonna bring it.
Yes.
We forgot all about it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
She now has it framed in a shadow box at home.
Yeah, there we go, right?
Because the caps were really
With the
something.
pins, right. Yeah.
But those pins are from Lawrence General School to nursing,
Yes.
not from our individual
Right,
schools to
right,
nursing.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
directly
Yeah.
related to Lawrence General. 1908,
Okay,
it would have been operating then.
yes, yes,
My father was born in Lawrence in 1908,
yeah.
but the vital records were destroyed in the fire.
Oh,
Did the hospital ever have separate records? Because when he went to retire, he had an awful time trying to retire,
Oh.
trying to prove his birth.
oh, yeah. Hmm.
Was he born in a hospital or at home?
I believe it was at a hospital.
Because a home births were the ones that we had trouble getting stuff from, so I don't know.
Hmm.
Can't help you with that.
Yeah,
unusual.
I don't know. Yeah.
1908, we bought one.
Hmm.
We would have been born in 1908 probably. But it's hard to tell. People chose to be born at home because they were afraid of hospitals in the beginning. They didn't know what was going to happen. And women stayed in hospitals 10 to 15 days after giving birth with the baby, which, as we know now, is the absolute wrong thing for them to do. So.
In 1927, they were still being born at home.
Yeah, right, yeah.
home in 47.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have any records of the first person that was admitted?
No, that would be something, right?
Yeah.
But no, I didn't come across anything like that, you know.
Why?
But,
You know, the first, they moved around.
yeah, but the one street, when the nursery, yeah.
Or the first birth that was recorded there. It has to be recorded.
It has to be maybe like at City Hall or the History Center, which has a lot of records, might have that, you know?
I'd like to know how much they charge those women to have those children go to daycare.
Oh, yeah.
Because
see,
those
didn't
women made
mention
almost no
anything like
money at
that.
all. I don't know how they could
Yeah.
even afford it.
Yeah, I don't know, it didn't, I'll tell you, everybody, you're welcome to look through it here before you leave. Most of my research came from this book here, A History of Lawrence General Hospital, okay, which belongs to the museum here, okay, it's our book. So I was using this to do a lot of my research, but before you leave today, or anytime you come back, you want to look through this, just let me know when you get here. But you're welcome, you know, to take a look here, but this is where I got a lot of my information from, you know. And I'll tell you one interesting thing, and I appreciate all the interesting things that you're all bringing up, and again, you know, we're all learning from each other. So in my research there, I also discovered that the well-to-do people in Lawrence, okay, they did not go to like the hospital once it got started here, right? Because they had wealth, okay, in their homes, they actually had like a sick room, okay, that was set aside, okay, and they would have like servants attending to them, like what would be the equivalent of private duty nurses today, okay? So early on, Lawrence General was only for those who couldn't afford to stay home and get care at home. They had to check themselves into the hospital, you know, but the well-to-do refused to go to Lawrence General here, okay? They preferred to try to heal themselves, get better at home with the necessary help that they could afford at the time.
But they would go to Boston.
Yes, doctors made house calls back then.
But they would go to Boston.
Boston,
They would go to Boston with the hospital.
if they had to, like to bring it up to the next level there, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but, yeah, so by the way, there was an invalid's home on Montgomery Street. I photocopied the notice here for you in the packet. What happened was, and I typed it up on the top of the copy, the photocopy, there was an outbreak of scarlet fever in 1877 in the day nursery, so they wanted to get those kids out of there. So the ladies rented a house on Montgomery Street,
No, kidding.
okay, yep, which is
Up there.
up in your old neighborhood, the Back Bay here in Lawrence, right? Okay, yeah,
Montgomery Street. Good.
Montgomery, 16 Montgomery, yeah,
Yeah,
okay. But here you have all the, regulations there, okay?
Can't
And
believe it.
it was quite specific, as you can see here, so, and including the pay, at least at the invalid's home, if you were brought there, you were expected to pay $250 a week, if you were able to, right? It says if able to, right?
But you're an invalid.
Because at the top of Montgomery, Berkeley Home for the Aged.
Right, yes.
The obstetric patient had stayed 4 weeks. That was a long time to stay in the hospital after you had a baby.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
For heaven's sake.
So, but yeah, these were the regulations that were posted, yeah, Pat.
Yeah, my people worked at Stevens.
Your people?
That means you're a lawyer.
So where exactly do you come from, Pat?
But 3 or 4 of them worked at Stevens Mill.
Yeah.
And in the day, Stevens Mill had a 2-bedroom at the Lawrence General. They paid for.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So if you were hurt or sick, and there was a bed open in the Stevens Mill
Oh,
room,
yeah.
you were in there for nothing.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting, yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know if other mills did that.
Probably, I think some of the mills in Lawrence did something like that. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, by the way, I photographed from the 1890s, a group of nurses here posing, okay? Some of them were actually smiling, not many. Back then they never smiled when they were photographed, but a couple of the nurses here, or at least pretending to smile, right? Okay. And you can see the matron, right? She had the special dress there. She's behind them with the matron there, okay? So.
Hiding the whip.
Yes, no doubt cracking the whip, right? Okay. So this probably would have been on Methuen Street then, the facility on Methuen Street, before they went to the Russell estate. And then an ambulance, it photographed kind of dark, all right? But I think you can still kind of make it out. From 1919, a horse-drawn ambulance. All right, imagine trying to get you, right, you have a heart attack. Oh, let me put you on the wagon here, right? Right, we'll have horses there, over cobblestone streets. You'll be dead, DOA, right, when you get to the hospital there, right? Right? And then, right, trying to jolt you with the defibrillator there, right?
Yeah,
Cobblestones will do the same thing to you, right? You didn't need a defibrillator there. Right? And then the nurses setting out on their rounds in a Ford. Look at that, an old Ford, I don't think it was a Model T, but a Ford sedan. And it was donated by the Lawrence Elks, okay? So the ladies could go out there and pay house calls, right? Okay? So, yeah, so, yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah, we've come a long way, Carol, that's right, thank God, right? So,
We certainly have.
yes, yeah. All right, so, thank you, everybody, I appreciate you coming, you're welcome, my pleasure, thank you, thank you.